Happy Monday. I'm dressed, as I look at myself on camera, apparently for an 80s punk rock show. Sup, gnarly dudes? I think that's 80s. It's like we're like some weird version of Hulk Hogan. Well, let me tell you something, brother. I'm gonna wear what's it called, Pepto-Bismol, and take the Macho Man down. Well, how was your Sunday? Was it quiet? Did you gather with friends or family? Did you do things that you wanted to do around the house or that your significant other wanted you to do around the house? So, I've been looking at different trending vids on YouTube. I look at them as topics that are trending. And I'll start out with a political one and then kind of move away from politics for the day, hopefully. So, to show you that I'm not really a neither here nor there party person or political affiliation, I'm going to assume that it goes without saying that I call out or will tell you when a liar is a liar, no matter what side they're on, and expect you will just know that about me from this point forward. You can choose to believe it or disbelieve it. It's your choice. So, there was a gentleman by the name of Reverend, I think he was Pastor Mark Burns of South Carolina, who has been helping as a surrogate speaker for one of the two main nominees for president. Well, CNN did an interview with this gentleman, and they, I guess confronted would be the right choice of words, confronted him with a bio that he either had written or that he hired someone to write or whatever about himself that was on one of his web pages. And this gentleman, Pastor Burns, spoke at the see, I almost gave it away. He spoke at one of the national conventions in July. So there were a couple of several discrepancies in what he said. He said he had applied, or that he was a member of a fraternity that is predominantly black. He said that Mark Burns is black, by the way. I don't think that's any more significant other than the fact of the fraternity that they mentioned. He said he was a member of the Army Reserves, and he said that he had a bachelor's from a certain theological university, all of which turned out to be false. He started the process of being a part of this fraternity, but never made it or never pursued it. He was in the Coast Guard for about 5 years, but was never affiliated with the Army as a member of the reserves. He could have been Coast Guard reserves, but that's not the same as Army. Coast Guard is sort of like, if you're not familiar with Coast Guard, I mean, they're people who sign up, and I give them credit for that. However, there's sort of I want to say a very final line of defense. So if every other main branch of the military gets taken out, and the reserves, then they're kind of stepping up. And at that point, as a citizen, you should probably follow the old adage of put your head between your legs and kiss your butt goodbye. So, because they don't have the same kind of intense training that other branches of armed forces go through. So, he was reserves, but Coast Guard, not Army, and there is a difference. And he never got a bachelor's. He attended this university for 1 year, and then they apparently never heard from him again. So originally in the interview with CNN, he said, well, first off, I said this was off the record. Well, look, if you don't want to talk about it, then if they bring it up, say I don't want to talk about it. Don't go, oh, it's off the record, because there's a camera sitting 4 feet away from you. If you see the red light on, which most cameras have a red light in some kind of capacity, or some kind of an indicator that they're filming, tell them turn off the camera and then I'll talk to you about it. Or stop talking. So he suggested his site could have been hacked and all these things could have been, manipulated to say this. And then I believe it was, let's just say it was right after their news story aired. He said, I made a mistake. I embellished because my church was young and I didn't think people would take me seriously. But and it's nice if you want to admit that. However, it has very little to do with the fact that you originally blamed someone else for that. So it's almost an empty apology. So today's trivia question: what New York skyscraper is hit by or struck by lightning? What New York City skyscraper is struck by lightning on average 25 times a year? And part 2 of the question, how many stories is it? That means how many floors are there? I don't want the height, I want the number of floors. So, Mark Burns is a surrogate speaker for Donald Trump. And he really is not an ideal choice. Look, no person is perfect. Okay? And if Mark Burns had said in the midst of this confronting him with true information about himself that he is held, he said, look, you know what, I have to be honest with you. I'm on camera and I lied. Because embellishing really is lying. That's just sort of like a friendly way of saying I lied. Well, I didn't lie, I embellished. No, you lied. But say you lied, face it, and then say, look, I can't really get past it. I lied, I'm imperfect, I can't do it. But instead he tried to blame hackers. I don't know if from what I saw in the interview, he didn't blame Democrats, but maybe he would at some point. after he made this statement of apology, he said, I do want to say that people are attacking my character because of this and that. Well, but if your character is questionable, of course they're going to attack you. That's what we do to Hillary Clinton, those who disagree with her tremendously. But look, it doesn't mean that he's a horrible human being. And I know that he's discussed on videos that he's been trolled on Twitter. Whether he has or not, I do not know. But if anyone's trolling him and telling him he needs to be hanged and all this, and he says most of this is coming from other black individuals, it doesn't matter who it is, but especially to say you need to be hung. That is really, really disgusting. I mean, it's almost like you are saying you have no appreciation, but you have no respect for the absolute evil that comes with someone who wants to kill people. It's like you have no respect for humanity. That's just wrong in general. You should never be like that towards anyone. Look, it's politics, okay? And at the end of the day, someone's gonna win, someone's gonna lose, and my feelings on it are already clear. But we don't come together by constantly saying negative things or throwing insults at each other. You can argue or debate. Argue is too emotional. You can debate logic of policy, but you can't do all that stuff where you're threatening people's lives or wanting to hit them or hurt them or assault them. That's really, to me, that shows someone who has no ability to intellectually interact with someone. It means you're just so guttural in everything you do that you really are not a benefit to us as a society. So build your mind, not your muscle. So that said, moving away from that, I was where I got this information that was a part of the trivia question I mentioned was from this video that was talking about a number of different little facts that you may or may not know. Things that I didn't know, by the way. Things at least most of them I didn't know. I think it's fascinating though. You know, there's someone who was telling me years ago that Thomas Edison is not actually the one who invented the light bulb, that he stole it from, I believe he was a Russian inventor. I don't know if he was Russian. I want to say he was Russian. I know the gentleman ultimately killed himself. I think he committed suicide or he drank himself to death. It's another form of suicide. A little less intentional on the surface perhaps, but still suicide. But so what people have to understand is, and I don't know the specifics of Thomas Edison and the light bulb, by the way. I know he attempted to invent them and it didn't work. And there's a very famous quote from Edison where someone asked him, why did you keep going when you failed to make a light bulb after 10,000 tries? And he said, I never failed. I found 10,000 ways how not to make a light bulb. And having a patent on something, first if you have to decide if someone has the patent, if someone doesn't have a patent, which I don't know if he did or not. So I'm not educated on that. But Thomas Edison is just an example of interesting facts that we don't really know about. There's a couple of particularly interesting ones as I've been looking back into the history of the Civil War and slavery itself, because there's so much racially charged conversation right now. And some interesting facts about the Civil War. And I'm going to get to this as we get close to Election Day. But I'm not as informed by any means as many people who study this. But I would suggest that you look up on YouTube or in books and such two sets of terms. One, black slave owners, and two, someone named William Ellison. There will be trivia questions about these topics going forward. And I think it's interesting for people to understand some of the facts about this. I just feel like it's a conversation that needs to be had and understood. So people, not all people, because there will be some individuals who will never be able to let go of that horror and who they associate with it. However, knowledge is power. And maybe if you understand it more, you can understand why political parties use it, both sides by the way, as a means of trying to elicit an emotional reaction, which is either disgust for the other party because they hear they are that, or appreciation for the party who's saying it because they say, well, I care about you. Well, I hate to break it to anyone who thinks that Hillary Clinton has ever helped the minority community, even though really we're all about equal now. But she hasn't. She really, really hasn't. And I got back into it. Darn it. What else can I say? I was watching a lot of Gene Wilder interviews recently. That guy was a really special soul. He talked about his working with Richard Pryor, Harrison Ford, about his relationships. If you're not familiar with Gene Wilder, then go look him up on Netflix or Amazon or YouTube. He's done so many good movies, among them the original Willy Wonka, which I've talked about, Young Frankenstein, Blazing Saddles, Silver Streak, The Producers. All these are great pieces, and there's more. He's also been a writer. He's been an author. Writer's different from an author. He's been an author. I think he's authored 6 books. I want to say he did 6 books before he died. But he's been married 3 times. But one of his most impactful relationships was with a comedian, which is what we as a society used to refer to as female comedians as comedians. I think you can kind of get that by the ands part versus the N part. Anyways, her name was Gilda Radner. She was on SNL. I'm not as familiar with her work and some of the stuff she did. There's some very famous characters, but they escape my mind because I'm just not as knowledgeable of her work. But Gilda Radner, I'm trying to remember what took her life. but she had some pretty serious health problems. She and Gene Wilder were married for 5 years before she passed away in the late 80s. And he said that was one of the most impactful relationships of his life. And that Gilda Radner was not a traditional beauty. She was beautiful because she was so creative and talented and passionate about what she did. And that's what made her gorgeous in so many ways. Same thing that happens with anybody. Have you ever noticed, and I really hope people look at this, if you look at people who are very passionate about what they do, you can grow to have a respect for them that makes their form very pleasing to you, because you know beyond that there's something really special. And that's what can make you stand out in so many ways. Look, George W. Bush is not a particularly amazing looking dude, all right? Barack Obama isn't a particularly amazing looking dude. Dustin Hoffman isn't a particularly amazing looking dude. I am not a particularly amazing looking dude. But there is something behind all of those people that I'd like to think myself. It shows that there is a fire and a commitment to something that transcends physical form, a passion, a dedication that shows through. And everybody has it in their own way. It doesn't have to be, political or entertainment based or whatever. It's just you see it at the job. You can find beauty. There's a great quote from Gene Wilder that I just posted on Facebook, and it was when he played the fox in The Little Prince. But first, the trivia answer. The trivia answer is the Empire State Building, and it's 102 stories tall. So Gene Wilder says, as the fox, he says, "It's only the heart that's," darn it, I'm going to miss up the quote. The last line of it, which I remember very vividly, was, "What's essential is invisible to the eye." And that's the case about every one of us. In our own way, what's essential about you is invisible to the eye. But it becomes a part of your exterior when you are around the right person who appreciates it. So find people who appreciate what you have to offer, because this, whether you're gorgeous or top 10, perfect 10, JQ, whatever else, in 25 years that will be gone, most likely. And what's going to matter is who you're in here. It doesn't matter what you are, it matters who you are. All right. Don't forget to be a subscriber to participate in the trivia challenge. Don't forget to like the video and then leave the comment with the two-part answer, and only in one comment, the two-part answer to today's trivia challenge. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon. Be well.